Good afternoon, everyone, and greetings of peace. Hope you all are doing well. Thank you for logging in slightly earlier. I see about 166 have joined in so far. Fantastic, thank you. And welcome to today's talk, Meditate, It's All You Really Need. It's being organized by the Brahma Kumaris Rajayoga Center in Singapore. Now, meditation, this word is such a popular word. You know, it's one of the most searched words on the internet. But it's also a word that can be pretty vague. For some, it may just mean a simple, fast way to relax, basically to get rid of stress. For others, it can be developed into a lifestyle, maybe. But one thing's for sure, it has become a very relevant aspect of many people's lives, including yours, which is why I'm assuming you've joined, which is a good thing because it shows that you care about yourself. But what's interesting about this talk is that it will aim to enable us not only to be stress-free for that time being, just a short period of time, but to actually respond to events or situations better by strengthening our inner world using practical meditation tips. So there'll be two major segments. Number one is the talk. And at the end of the talk, we will also have a short Q&A session. So feel free to key in your questions in the chat box, which will be kept open throughout. I would suggest keying in your questions maybe midway through, just in case your questions get answered during the talk. Yeah. And I'm very happy to see a lot of cameras open. If you wish to keep your cameras on, please do. It'll be a little bit more personal and interactive. Yeah. Now, on to our speaker. When you think practical meditation, one name particularly stands out, and that is Brother Charles Hogg. Brother Charlie, as we affectionately like to call him, is the national coordinator of the Brahmakumaris, Australia. He has traveled to over 80 countries, including Singapore, but don't ask me how many times because I can't keep count. Countless. So he's no stranger to Singapore and the Singapore family. He has been a practitioner of Rajayoga for the past 46 years and is a much sought after meditation teacher, speaker, and retreat leader. So it is not surprising that we requested Brother Charlie to take up this topic on meditation. Personally, I enjoy Brother Charlie's classes always because I always come out feeling very motivated. I was just thinking about how best to describe his way of putting across a point. And the image of a fruit juicer or a blender came to mind. For example, I'm going to use an analogy. You take a whole watermelon, for example. We know it's very healthy, okay? But you ask us to eat it whole, it's not a very simple feat. However, you just cut it up in pieces, throw it in the juicer, and it comes out perfectly in a glass or maybe two. Easy to drink, not too heavy, easily digestible, quenches your thirst. Same as his talks. The topic can be vast and deep, like meditation, for example. But he has this gift of making it very easy to understand, accept, and even easier to inculcate in our lives. And so it is my pleasure to welcome Brother Charlie, all the way from Australia. Good afternoon, or rather evening, brother, and sending peaceful and loving vibrations all the way from here, which should be reaching you right about now. Thank you for being with us, despite being 3 hours ahead. I really appreciate it. And over to you, brother.
So thank you so much, Sister Veena. And that's the first time I've ever heard meditation talks been likened to a smoothie. And anyway, that's extremely lovely. And I would like to welcome everybody and thank Sister Lakshmi and Brother Mukesh for organizing the talk. You know, we live in such an extraordinary world. 7.9 billion human beings, 195 countries, 6,500 spoken languages, remarkable, and 4,500 practiced religions. But that's the external world. That's the world that we connect through our senses. We see it, we hear it, we taste it, we touch it. But as you know, there's another world, which I like to call the inner world or the unseen world. And this is the world here, the mind, this extraordinary mind that science tells us creates about 70,000 thoughts in a waking day. So sometimes I hold the image that we have 7.9 billion people pumping out 70,000 thoughts into the atmosphere. It's almost like we all live in this thought soup, which is influencing us. And yet wherever, well, I don't travel much these days, but I talk to a lot of people. Almost every corner of the world observes life or society disintegrating, degenerating, unraveling. What other adjectives can I use? What is feeding what we are seeing in our world? It's this collective mind, if I can say this collective human mind. And when the collective human mind is full of greed, we've created this materialistic culture that begins here, flows through us, and is destroying our environment. When the collective human mind is full of ego, there's just self-interest for me and my family. I don't really care about others. A lack of compassion and respect for others. When the collective human mind is full of anger, we know how much conflict and differences there are in our world. When the collective human mind is full of fear, it's like that energy from our accumulated thinking is just making anxiety exponential in our world. And so can we say that meditation is really all you need to solve this? What do you feel? I wonder what you really think. Because where does this all begin? Where does this chaos we're seeing in our world begin? You know, in the United Nations Charter, one of the most famous sentences is, wars begin in the minds of men. And everything originates here. In fact, our whole world begins up here. You know, my mind is the center of my life. And if we look deeply, what happens in my mind? My thoughts, my feelings, my memories, my relationships, they're all happening up there. My hopes, my dreams, my fears, everything is happening in the mind. And in fact, meditation is perhaps the most ancient tool that man uses to deal and manage this extraordinary instrument which we have. There has never been a more important time for us to really perhaps learn how to understand my thoughts, manage my thoughts, and harness the power of my mind. And this is really what meditation is. And you know, so many people say that when they think about meditation, they sort of think of it as sitting down for a few minutes morning and evening, perhaps. And it is, that's good. But I sort of think of it more as an attitude to life, an approach to life. It's almost that I begin to approach my life from a point of self-awareness. I live my life in that state, and I take responsibility for how I feel. This is meditation. Meditation is like a decision that peace is my natural and intrinsic state. And I am going to live a life of peace and spread peace in my life. Meditation is really a decision that I'm not going to become a victim of my thinking anymore. My own thinking just going round and round and round with all sorts of states of paranoia and confusion and delusion often. No, I'm going to use the energy of thought to create a quality state of mind. Really, meditation is the way to harness the power of my inner world, so that what's flowing from my mind is really beginning to flow into this world. It's not only influencing me, it's influencing those close to me and influencing this world around us as well. And perhaps the easiest way I feel these days to describe meditation and why it's, I would say, a very necessary part of life today. I feel meditation heals 3 relationships. And these 3 relationships connect to all parts of my life. When I heal these 3 relationships, then it sort of seeps into every little corner of my life. How I feel, my physical health, my relationships, my performance in the workplace, my perception of what is happening around me, absolutely everything. The first relationship with the self, the second relationship with love, and the third relationship with others. So let's begin with the self. And many times I think of this as the 3 intelligences which people often talk about today. You know, my IQ, my EQ, and my SQ. I think you know all these. My IQ is my intelligence, so necessary. That's what, you know, we pass exams with, and we get a job, and we earn an income to provide for me and my family. Helps me understand the world around me. But when I feel stressed and anxious and depressed even, does it help? I don't think so. Emotional intelligence is really that wisdom to build rich, loving relationships in life. How necessary is that? How necessary is that? But once again, when I'm challenged, which we are all challenged at the moment in life, when I'm challenged, does this intelligence help? I don't think so. But spiritual intelligence is something else. And if emotional intelligence is that wisdom to build rich, loving relationships with others, spiritual intelligence is the wisdom to build a rich, loving relationship with me. And in a sense, this is meditation. It begins by reconnecting with my intrinsic and fundamental self. You know, sometimes I feel the first relationship in life is with me. And if this relationship is unhealthy and dysfunctional, it influences everything. And like I was saying at the beginning, I believe really the world we're seeing out there, if I can use the word, the madness, which seems to be enveloping everywhere, you know, the seed of it is that the first relationship in those 7.9 billion human beings is unhealthy. That relationship of me with me. And so this relationship needs healing. And when I look inside, as I start to explore, how do we do this when we meditate? We see that there's really 3 personalities inside of us. I would say 2 of them make me feel peaceless, make me feel weak, make me lose hope in myself and what's happening around me. But 1 of them starts to rebuild peace, inner strength, self-respect. And so meditation is reconnecting with that personality. So the first personality is the facade that I present to life. You know how we have that image that we present to the world? I call this the eye of arrogance or the eye of superiority. And this eye takes its whole sense of identity from all the labels of my body, my gender, my nationality, my religion, my age, my education, hundreds of labels. There's something common to all those labels. They are all temporary. So this is the first identity that I've invested in most of my life. And when I'm under the influence of this identity, if I can say my ego, based on this temporary identity, my body, it has a whole thinking, feeling, behavioral structure inside. I compare with others and I think, I am better, I know more, I am right. The way I think is right, the way I see things is right. But when it comes into my feelings, when the ego is ruling in my inner system, that's when I feel so easily insulted, disrespected, not valued, excluded, sensitive. I'm really delicate. Tiny things disturb me. Often we blame the other, but actually it's my own sensitivity. It's my sensitivity is ego. And what's the result of the wrong seed of identity? The result is I feel separate. Ego makes you feel separate. You feel in your head you don't belong. People don't want you. You feel separate from your true self and you feel separate from others. And often we put it on those around me, but actually my ego is deceiving me. So that first, if I can say, false identity. The second is the flip side of ego. It's the vulnerable me, behind the confident me, the one who, has got the degrees and has the good job and the good title, is that little voice inside, am I good enough? Do people really like me? That self-doubt that sits inside virtually every human being. It may not look it. I call this the vulnerable self, or the I of lack of self-respect, or the I of inferiority. And this I also takes its identity from all these temporary labels of the temporary body. And when this I is ruling, it compares with others, and it's the flip side. Others don't love me, others don't respect me, others don't value me. And when it comes into my feelings, there's a hopelessness. Quite frankly, there's an epidemic of hopelessness in the world. I feel hopeless, inadequate, unworthy, inferior, depressed, I would say. Depression in psychology is like a sadness that my dream in life to be loved, to be valued, to be respected hasn't happened. But in spirituality, depression is like a mourning for the loss of my true identity. I'm living my life, but who am I? And so when I'm under the influence, when I think I'm a temporary body, it has two children, this ego and lack of self-respect. So what happens? One day you're up, the next day you're down. 1 hour you're up, the next hour you're down. 1 minute you feel okay, one word, and then you fluctuate once again. Exhausting lifestyle. The third I is the original I. And this is the permanent self, the soul. The soul is a wonder. The soul is just a point. And recently, a group of us were talking about this here in Australia, that, science now says that this human body actually is made up of around 40 trillion, not billion, trillion cells. Can you believe that? It's almost unfathomable, isn't it? 40 trillion little building blocks make this temporary form. And yet within that, sitting in the front of the forehead, is the soul. The soul has lived before this body, and the soul lives after this body. I am the soul. This is my body. I am the dweller, the one living in this body. And I, the soul, the true self, the self I'm now going to connect with in meditation. I'm immortal, eternal, non-physical. And actually, when I begin to think like this, the feeling is of coming home to a place inside where I feel I belong. I feel so comfortable. I don't have to prove anything. I don't have to be anything. I don't have to impress anyone. I don't have to live up to an image. I'm actually beginning to reconnect with my authentic and real self. And this is really rehealing the first relationship in life. And this is what meditation does. meditation starts to connect me with who I really am. Result, a profound state of peace, an incredible feeling of fragrance in my mind that just soothes me and calms me and cools me and heals me. A sense of self-value like is stable, regardless of people around me, opinions, change, all that stuff. I feel I know who I am. And so this is an enormous investment in a quality of life. And the way I sometimes look at it is that the inner world is like a tree. And what does a tree have? A tree has a seed, a trunk, branches, and leaves. My thoughts are the leaves. You know, when you see a huge, huge, huge tree, there are literally hundreds of thousands of leaves on that tree. But what is feeding the leaves are the branches. What is feeding the thoughts are my emotional and mental patterns. And what is feeding those mental patterns is my subconscious, the trunk. The trunk is like my subconscious. Freud believed that 90%, up to 90% of my behaviors, my reactions are influenced by my subconscious. But what is the seed? The seed is my sense of identity. Who am I? So when I sow the seed of a body, it influences my subconscious. It influences then all the mental, emotional patterns. And then we have these patterns of being paranoid, reading things into everything, or perfectionism. So many, I'd say, false mental and emotional patterns. The result, hundreds and hundreds of thoughts, so many thoughts on the top. And often we try to change the thoughts, but the thoughts are the result. The seed is a false sense of identity. But when I sow the seed that I am an eternal, immortal, non-physical soul, it influences my subconscious. My mental and emotional patterns really cool down. And my thoughts that are created are really peaceful thoughts, naturally. And this is really like the first step in meditation. So what I'd like to do is invite all of you, wherever you are sitting, if you can, just for these few moments, I'm going to speak a few thoughts to lead us into a little meditation experience. I'd love you to put down devices, phones, move away from distractions, and just for these few minutes, follow the thoughts which are being suggested. Meditation is converting what I know into an experience. Let me visualize the permanent self, the true self, the original self. As a minute spark of life energy sitting lightly in the forehead, in the front of the brain. Just hold this image in your mind of I, the eternal self, that sits in this body and acts through this body. So let me begin the process of letting go the limited identities I've created. So that I can taste this inner peace. Let me first let go identifying with what I do. As a parent, as a partner, as a colleague. Let me just step back, withdraw, let go. That is not who I am, but what I do. And then in the eye of your mind, just for a moment, visualize your body and all the labels of your body. The gender, nationality, profession. These labels are not who I am. They are just the temporary identities of this body. Feel yourself even withdrawing from all those temporary labels. And now even observe your memory. Your whole past sitting in your memory track. That is not who I am. That is my past story. Just feel yourself lighter and lighter. So light. As I let go all these limited identities, feel myself, the eternal self, sitting lightly in the forehead. As I reconnect with who I really am, I become soul conscious. And when I am soul conscious, I naturally feel peaceful. I naturally regain my self-respect. I naturally feel stable. The first step of meditation is to heal the relationship with myself by knowing and experiencing who I am. So thank you so much, everyone. If you sat in meditation then and Hope we all did. Your thoughts will have jumped all over the place. It's normal when you start. So don't overreact or feel hopeless that, no, I can't do it. My mind is the most neurotic mind. Everyone's mind is like that, I'm afraid. And the more you go deep into this wisdom of who I am, the more I practice, actually, I develop probably the most essential art of life, to meditate, to heal who I am. So the second step of meditation is to heal my relationship with love. And if you observe your thoughts, and we all do that at different times, you'll notice that if you do a self-audit, if I can say, if you observe what thoughts fill you with strength and happiness, and what thoughts drain you of strength and happiness, it's absolutely obvious. When I'm loving, when I'm kind, when I give respect, I feel strong, I feel happy. But the thoughts that drain me are the thoughts of anger, aggression, hatred, blame, all that sort of stuff. We know it, and yet we're a victim of our own thoughts so often. But I would say that the most powerful feeling that makes me really feel strong and rekindles something that's been lost and forgotten inside is the power of love. And I think we search for true love. We invest our heart in relationships. It's normal, isn't it? And if you think of your life, how much have you given to your family, to your friends, to everyone? But there's a massive human dilemma. And that is that no relationship is permanent. Whether it's time, whether it's change, whether it's conflict, whether it's death, the object of my love goes. And this creates so much sense of fear and insecurity inside most of us. And what the second step of meditation does is it offers a permanent source of love. And in my life experience, there's three main sources of love: the self, the divine or God, and others, my family and friends. And if we look at the self honestly, I don't think many of us get a lot of love. In fact, often we are very self-critical. We put ourselves down a lot. Not much love from that side. From God, I think people have faith in God, but I don't know whether we really feel love and belonging. So my one source of love is my family and friends. If it's working out well, I feel secure. But if there is that loss or whatever, it's like my whole life is thrown into chaos. So what really is meditation, and why is it really all we need? Because first, it's developing a loving relationship with myself as a soul. And secondly, a loving relationship with the divine or the supreme soul. And when that's the platform of who I am and my life, I can build it on a solid platform, something that doesn't change. It's not shaking. It's absolutely stable. And this is really developing a connection with I, the soul, this incredibly subtle point, with the supreme soul, a soul like me. But I'm a soul that's taken birth and rebirth. And I know happiness, I know sorrow. The supreme soul is a soul that's beyond that game, but a real soul, like me. I'm talking to you, but I'm acting through my body. I sit here, but I'm seeing and talking and acting. The supreme soul is a living being too, not a concept, not a belief, a religious belief or whatever, but a real living being. And meditation is turning my mind in that direction. Why? Because in that being is an unlimited source of everything I need. Love, peace, strength, happiness, etc. And this is really the second step of meditation, to turn my mind in that direction. And, sometimes I find these days that when you say to people, meditation is knowing who you are as a soul and connecting with the Supreme Soul, they love it. Makes sense for a lot of people. But when they sit to meditate, the mind goes all over the place. And quite frankly, excuse my throat, I think often the word meditation gives us the idea I have to sort of elevate my consciousness forcefully. I have to wrestle with myself. And this is why often we use the word remembrance. Remembering. Why? Because remembering is the most natural thing to human consciousness. At every millisecond, I'm remembering something. Even as I'm speaking, the subtle thread of your soul, which is the intellect, is always traveling. And as I've been speaking, you've traveled to a child, to a partner, to a parent, to a friend, to a situation. You do it instantly and you connect with that and you're influenced by that. Because each time we remember anything or a person, three things happen. You connect. The subtle thread connects with a memory or a person or a situation. Whatever you connect to, you are influenced by. It's almost like you put yourself under a subtle shadow. And whatever you're influenced by, you have a feeling inside. That's the feeling you have in your mind. And so if you remember a family member or a friend that you're really close to, as soon as you connect, you feel that closeness. So you're influenced by that love and closeness. You feel very calm and quiet and content inside. But if the subtle thread connects to a friend you're in conflict with, you're not getting on with, instantly you connect. You're influenced by that conflict and you feel your mind starts to become hurt and upset and disturbed. If you connect with the Supreme Being, the Supreme Soul, the instant you connect, you're influenced by that stability, by that love, by that peace. It's like you live stream that energy. It's real. You live stream that into the sacred space of your mind. And sometimes the image I have for daily life is I go about my life at work, but here I'm plugging into all these things, plugging into a situation that was negative, so my mind's disturbed, plugging into a person who I'm not sure about, plugging in here, there, everywhere. And so what happens? Whatever I plug into ultimately is making me feel inside. And this is really the idea of remembering. When I remember the Supreme Soul, I plug into that highest vibration and I download that into my mind. That feeling, it's a feeling, such a sweet feeling, beautiful feeling, a calm feeling. It sustains me, it sustains the atmosphere around me, and it sustains the people I love. You don't even have to speak, but who you are, your face and vibrations create a feeling. You know what I mean, I'm sure, that just sustains the atmosphere. If I keep plugging into people and some liking these ones, disliking these ones, liking this opinion, rejecting this opinion, the normal human sort of connections, there's a low vibration in my mind. There's sometimes hurt, there's sometimes attraction, there's sometimes repulsion. But if I plug into me and my past and my mistakes and my weaknesses, the plug of self-criticism, lowest vibration. And what I feel is if I'm not feeling happy, if I'm not happy inside, there's only one question to ask myself. What have I been remembering? What have I plugged my thinking into? Because I'm putting myself under that influence. And when I become a meditator, and I realize that whatever I plug into is going to be the feeling I have inside, I become aware that the more I plug into who I am and the Supreme, I can hold love and peace and stability in my life. Yes, it definitely needs practice. But this is really meditation, living my life in the awareness of the self and holding the connection with the Supreme. And really the third way that meditation heals is my relationships with others, because whenever, what is relationships about? It's communication, right? It's connecting with people. And whenever you connect with people, you connect on 3 levels. One is what you say, they say, and you hear. Secondly is your face. You read people's faces all the time. You do it subconsciously. The third is the vibrations. And you know that 80 to 90% of the impact of another person is their face and their vibrations, the non-verbal part. And when you get 2, shall we say, messages, one is a verbal message and the other is a feeling or a facial expression, you always trust your feelings. And so what happens is that the more you meditate, in a sense, you're cleaning up your thinking, you're cleaning up your attitude. And so when you meet people, people get a different feeling. Some people wonder why I can't get on with other people. Why don't people like me? It's so obvious. If I hold negative thoughts in my mind, or if I come in front of somebody and I think last week you did this and once you said this to me, all this, people feel it. And if I really want to get on with others, I have to have a benevolent attitude. And so what meditation does is that, one, I know who I am and I start to see them beyond their labels. So rather than meeting them as a male or a female or this or that, I see the soul. And you experiment, you try, you'll be amazed. When you see people as a soul, they love it because it's a vision of equality. When you see the body, you will always compare and position yourself superior or inferior. You do it subconsciously. You see them and what their body represents, and you will position yourself in that way. And so when we begin to realize the power of my mind, when you meditate and your mind is full of a fragrance of peace and love and goodwill, that is the most powerful thing to heal relationships and influence relationships. And even relationships that have gone bad, the more I hold this energy field in my mind, it influences everyone around me. So I'm just going to finish in just a minute and then there'll be some time for questions because I'm watching the time. But there's 3 approaches to meditation. One is a hobby. You do it occasionally. That means, you come on a talk like this. It's good. But let's be real. We know once the talk finishes and we get into absorbed in life, maybe a few things are remembered. That's good. It's okay. The second is as a discipline. I start to meditate every morning, every night. That's excellent. But what actually happens is when I meditate, my mind goes into a zone, a cooling down zone. I feel more peaceful, centered, calm, aware. But as soon as I finish meditation, often I switch back to my old thinking, my old perception. Where it's really working these days is when it's a lifestyle. And that really means I carry this awareness throughout the day. This is really where meditation is really all you need, because it's almost like the seeds of your thinking, your behavior, your interactions are based on that which is permanent and true. Who am I? I am an eternal soul. Who are you? You're an eternal soul. Who am I drawing strength from? The Supreme Soul. And as I move about life, holding that, honestly, with all the challenges we're all facing, all the obstacles, as you practice, you feel less and less influenced by all this stuff. You can maintain yourself, your self-respect, and have a stability. And so in a sense, meditation is really like an attitude. It's like I make a decision. I'm going to live as a peaceful soul, and I'm going to turn my mind and remember that subtle thread, the Supreme Soul, because then I live stream the highest energy into me, and it keeps replenishing me and strengthening me. So I'm going to wind up there, and maybe Sister Veena, if you've got any questions in the chat box, we can have a few questions.
Thank you, Brother Charlie, for that very insightful and yet light-hearted session. So I think we've come to realize that meditation is indeed like a tip of the iceberg. You know, it's got quite a few layers to go into. It takes time, but we'll get there. And you know, basically, so much to delve into and experience. It's basically like a lifelong experience rather than just very theoretical. So thank you. So now, without further ado, maybe we can proceed to the Q&A session. We have got 2 questions here. For those having questions, please just post it into the group chat. Okay, so maybe we'll start with the first one. I think you did touch a little bit on this, but never mind, let me just ask it. Okay, how can I be stable in a state of being aware of the soul all the time? Maybe we can say soul consciousness. So meditation, yes, it will help me experience, but to be stable in that state, I would assume all the time, most of the time, what can I do?
That's a really lovely question, because I think that's really, you know, when you are practicing paying attention to soul consciousness, when you sit to meditate, you automatically go deep. But if you sit to meditate and you have to struggle into that state, because I've sort of been quite, I can say, body conscious during the day, then it's harder. It's much harder. Can I just say, this is the lifelong journey of spirituality. It's almost like when I began to meditate and I listened to these things, I realized actually how incredibly body conscious I had become. All that sort of sensitivity and all the emotion, the seed of it is false, because I've forgotten who I am. And you need patience, but it just is attention, I can say, attention. And I would, you know, to start to rebuild that self-awareness, I would wake up early in the morning and really practice to be a soul. And as you go out through, you know, go through the day, practice, hold the attention. And, you know, I did experiments in the laboratory of my mind. I feel the mind is a laboratory. And, you know, the reality of I, the soul, is that I always exist. If I really get my head around that, you know, as you start to really taste, not just believe, but taste the feeling of eternity, I will tell you most of your fear is going to go. Most of your fear of loss, fear of death, etc. And you know, my experience too, as I started to experiment in the laboratory of my mind, that I'm non-physical, the reality of the self is I'm incorporeal or non-physical. You know, I found a natural detachment. And what I mean by that, I'm in the world, I'm fulfilling responsibility, I'm close, I'm connected, I'm loving, but less influence. Naturally, I felt uninfluenced by people. And this is really the real work of a spiritual journey. You know, I often feel when you go to university out there, you'll pack your head with so much information, you'll learn so much. But this spiritual university, you know, you just take one idea, who am I, and go deeper and deeper and deeper. And as you unpack it, you experience, you start to experience. This is meditation. Meditation is converting the idea, who am I, into an experience. And the more you do, you'll feel peace. Often I say that the aim of meditation is not to be peaceful. That's the result. The aim of meditation is to know and experience who I am. And the automatic result, the automatic thing is a real feeling of peace. So yes, I would really encourage you to do the experiments in your mind. Go about your life being a soul, seeing souls, and you'll find you'll move forward very quickly.
Thank you. So leading up to, or leading from that question, something related to the family and workplace, because of course we've got family and, most of us have jobs. What do I do to remember these teachings and not to get emotionally overwhelmed? Because it can be especially tough when it's to do with matters in the family, perhaps with outsiders, we may try to calm ourselves and just say, okay, you know what, never mind. But with family, we tend to let loose, so to speak.
Sister Veena, I think that another way, there's many ways we can look at meditation, but meditation means balance. And in the old days, people always used to try to find a work-family balance, but a meditator puts the third factor, the balance of the self. And when I really look after myself, I give time to myself, because that's the one I neglect. I give so much time to family, so much time to work, I neglect me. And when I neglect me, often I'm not very nice in the family and I'm not very nice in the workplace. But when I give time to me in the early morning, I'm a much nicer person in the family and a much nicer person in the workplace. And I would say that really when you change, that is the greatest gift to the people around you too. Because your whole vibration, when you really change, helps sustain others. And I would say we're at a time that most families have some major issues. I think it's fair to say that, major issues. Sometimes there's family members going through mental health issues or conflicts or whatever. And sometimes, there's emotional support. We just get exhausted trying to support them, help them, and they feel better. And then the next day they come back and they're back to square one once again. Spiritual support is holding their value in your attitude, holding the vibration in the house, you can't underestimate the power of an elevated mind that holds peace and love in the atmosphere. That has a huge influence. It's like a gift. And if I can be that anchor in the family, I can really, that's how I sustain my family. This is spiritual support. As you all know, these days, you can talk and advise children and partners and things, what you think, and do they listen? I'm not sure they do much. But when your vibrations, your face, that's where you can connect with people and help people change and uplift people. That's what works today, actually.
Lovely. I have got two questions which are quite similar. Okay, so I'm going to read out both. The first one being, how do I manage time? Because you did speak about setting aside some time and, morning, night, throughout the day. So how do I manage time, and how long should my meditation sessions be?
What I would suggest is that I would sit maybe for a short while at the beginning and do it well. Because if you sit for a long time, your mind wanders everywhere. That becomes a habit. I would wake up in the morning, and even from today, wake up, sit quietly, and maybe for 10 minutes, absolutely feel yourself letting go the feeling of being a temporary body, become the soul. Look through the third eye and see the Supreme Soul and feel the vibrations and feelings from the Supreme. Practice. And if you have a good feeling, do it a little bit more. But you would definitely need to do a course in more depth of the meditation method. But I feel that the more you're self-aware, you know how much time to spend on things. Sometimes we spend a day wasting so much time. But the more you become self-aware, it influences all parts of your life, including time management. You know how long a conversation needs to be. You know how long you need to do things. And I think you can actually, manage your life much better. I often feel that when you're going about a day and you have so many waste thoughts about people and situations, you feel exhausted. It's not your physical activity, it's your mind. If you have all that waste, you think when you're happy, how long? You can work 18 hours when you're happy. As soon as you become unhappy, you just want to run home and go to bed, you feel tired. And this is how you learn to manage time, that the more your mind is soul conscious, connected with God, you have pure thoughts, it has an influence on your time management, on your relationships in the family, your performance in the workplace, and most of all, your happiness.
Okay, lovely. We do have quite a few questions, but maybe we'll just take a last one. Okay, so
Yes.
Meditation is normally, there's this kind of, what can I say, expectation maybe, or this connotation that, it's closed-eyed meditation. But when I'm out there, I'm dealing with people, I need to keep my eyes open. So is it possible for open-eyed meditation? Is it easy?
Yes, it is easy. When I began to meditate with eyes closed. But this is why, it's an unnatural state. When you meditate with your eyes closed, because, we have to live in the world. We are social beings. We have relationships. We've got work. We've got responsibility. And then really all I'm doing, I'm living my life as I was doing, but I'm changing my headspace. I've got a new awareness in my mind. So if I can meditate with my eyes open, and I'll just tell you as quickly as I can. Once I was in California at the University of San Francisco, California, and they were studying meditators, and I was one of their guinea pigs. And it's actually known fact, meditators can lower their brain waves. They can calm themselves down, which has massive effect on your physical well-being, your mental well-being, as you all know. But what they were interested in, okay, when you go back into the workplace, into family life, which is sometimes pretty challenging, does your mind revert to its old thinking, or does the feeling remain? And I was one of the guinea pigs, and the scientists put me in this little room, and they put electrodes all over me. I looked like Bionic Man or something. And they measured my brain waves, and I had to do all these things. I had to meditate, and then they asked me to sleep. And then they gave me all these problems to do, mathematical problems, etc. So putting me under pressure like a workplace. And you know what she said at the end of it? The lady scientist, she said, the few people I've done who meditate with their eyes open carry their meditation into their practical daily life. And this is why really, when we're body conscious, I, the soul, sit here, but what I see keeps coming into my mind and driving my thinking. When I'm soul conscious, I, the soul, sit here and I begin to observe more. I see what's happening, I'm aware of what's happening, but I don't let it in to keep dominating my thinking. And, in a way, the more I meditate, the more I become a natural observer of life and I become less influenced. And this is why really it's wonderful to meditate. Learn to practice meditation with our eyes open.
Okay, that was brilliant. Thank you so much for that insight. Now, there are other questions, but I do apologize if your questions was not asked, because we have got to take into account the time. So I hope you don't mind. Now, for the last segment, brother, if you could just take us on a quick journey into an experiential state. Something for us to take away and practice for the weekend, maybe?
Yes. Anyway, thank you so much. If I can suggest once again to all of us, for these few minutes, please, put down phones, put down devices, let go distractions, and let us just sit quietly and visualize yourself as the eternal soul. The tiny spark of life energy, completely distinct from this body. And in this state of soul consciousness, look through the eye of your mind and visualize a radiant jewel of light, the Supreme Soul. Meditation is the union of I, the soul, with the one relationship that's permanent. I'm communicating with a real, living, aware being, but a being without a body, a being who's an ocean of unlimited love. And just become like a small child. And with this gentle focus on this supreme light, feel the love radiating, this gentle, pure, divine love. And feel it entering the core of your being. Feel yourself being bathed in this pure love, accepting me, loving me. This is the highest union of the mind. If each morning I wake and before I begin to think about what happened yesterday, what I have to do today, sit quietly, go deep into soul consciousness and connect your whole being with the lover of the soul, the one relationship that is always thought away. The more I do this, the stronger I will become. My self-respect will grow. And my meditation will influence all corners of my life in a positive way. Thank you, Shanti.
You, Om Shanti. It took a while for me to come out of that experience. So beautiful. And so on behalf of everyone here, Brother Charlie, thank you for taking your time to spend with us an hour or so. It was enlightening, inspiring. You gave us some practical tips that we can use in our daily lives. I know it's pretty late there. but you still look as fresh as ever. And so thank you once again, and have a lovely
Thank you,
night.
Veena Ben. Thank you so much, Veena
Om
Ben. Thank you,
Shanti.
everybody. Om Shanti. Thanks for having me. Love and good wishes to everyone in Singapore.
Thank you.
Thank you so
as
much.
well.
Thank you. Good night. Bye.
Good night. And to the rest, okay, please hang on for a little bit more because I've got some important information that might interest you. So if you are keen to explore the techniques of Rajayoga meditation, of course, or rekindle that relationship with the inner self, with the divine, we do offer courses that are free of charge in English, Mandarin, Tamil, Telugu, and even Hindi. You may wish to choose to attend on weekday evenings, on weekends, if you are working late during the week. If you're one of those who lead an ultra busy life, don't worry, we even have a solution for that. Because next week, Chinese New Year holiday on the 1st and the 2nd of February, we are going to be offering an intensive course from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. So it's just 3 hours on 2 consecutive days. So you may want to consider that as well. So now we've come to the end of the session. So we're going to leave the chat box open. I already see a few of you all posting your feedback, inspirations that you gathered from the talk. So please continue to post, and synonymous to any program that's being organized by the Brahmakumaris, a good wish is always given to mark the end of a program. Well, it doesn't really signal the end of a program, but it can also signify the beginning of a new inspired life, new vision, new awareness, new way of thinking about the self. And with that, on behalf of the entire team, I thank you for taking part, and take care. See you soon on Zoom. Good evening and bye-bye. So continue, the chat box will be open.